Hey, this is Keena B, and welcome to Say Anything. Say anything.
Why can't you just say anything?
I'm gonna say anything.
People just say anything.
I swear, people just say anything. Welcome to Say Anything with Keena B. Well, hello again. Welcome to Say Anything with Keena B. I am Keena B. Thank you so much for joining me. And today we're going to do a little discussion that is continued from last week when we were talking about developing countries with my husband, the one and only Charles Wimbia. He is also working on his PhD, so he has a little bit of information when it comes to the work of developing countries. So we're going to continue that discussion, but before we do that, we're going to talk about a little bit of the news from the past week. Please welcome my husband, Charles Wimbia. Hey, Charles.
Hello.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure.
So the big, beautiful bill just passed. I actually read some of the things that passed in it. What's interesting, not the whole thing, but the stuff that's been highlighted in the news. One or two things stuck out, and I was like, oh, well, that's not that bad. Like some tax credits that might be helpful. But then there are a couple of things that obviously would start impacting people we know within the next year or so, like the Medicare cuts, and one thing I found interesting though was that they did cut all of the tax credits to people who have electric vehicles or hybrid vehicles, but then gave tax credits to the traditional.
Okay, like
the gasoline
and diesel cars.
Yeah. What did you think about that whole ordeal around that big, beautiful bill?
I don't know, a lot of things in there. I'm still trying to find everything that's in there, but it's good they have tax credit on gasoline vehicles, but taking it away from electric vehicles, I don't know. That just looks more like getting at the other side of political actors who are champions of environmental protection and reducing global warming.
Yeah.
So it's more like getting at them and slashing in their faces that, guess what? We're going to promote gasoline vehicles.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to benefit the people, but I don't think they should have taken the incentive from electric cars.
They could have kept all the incentives.
They could have kept all the incentives and added more.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe to protect the U.S. auto industry.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of, like maybe just imposing tariffs, but just encourage people to, because this is a consumer-based economy, to buy maybe more cars. But they should have kept the electric vehicle credit.
I find it interesting that this bill cut, I think it was like over $1 billion of Medicare funding, but added $3 trillion to the deficit cap. I was just like, why are they adding when? What was the incentive to add? I thought the whole point of all these cuts, or what was sold to the public, was to lower the deficit, but they added $3 trillion to the cap.
Yes, and that has happened a lot. And usually it's the same people that preach fiscal discipline that spend more money. But the other side, sometimes Democrats are not very good at propaganda.
No, they're horrible at it, actually.
Not
except for race baiting propaganda. They're good at that.
Yeah, I think that's...
But then they created it, so...
Yeah, so they'll be good at it.
They would be good at that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but when it comes to, their opponents inflating budgets in some sections and spending big money. They're the one that talk about physical discipline and not overspending, but they actually do spend a lot
It's been a lot.
historically.
You talking about Republicans?
Yes, Republicans.
Yeah.
Historically, just from from Reagan fighting the Soviet Union.
And the Democrats should take advantage of that fact.
Yeah, that's what they should be talking about, but they don't.
But they don't. And this is when you start thinking, well, it really isn't about Democrats or Republicans. It's about class. It's always been about class.
Yeah.
And then race is just something thrown in there to help with the whole class structure in order to disrupt and distract, in my opinion. But it is so rooted. It is so rooted that the systematic oppression of people and divisiveness, that everybody is playing their part. Everybody. The Democrats are playing their part, their role in keeping that going. The Republicans are playing their role in keeping that perpetuated. Libertarians, all of them are. Green Party, I don't care what party it is. They're all playing their role in keeping divisiveness going.
Yeah. So I guess it has a little bit of some good parts, and the other parts that are like, well, we'll see how this plays.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but we'll see. I hear people talking about. I haven't seen it in the bill yet, but I've just heard people talking about increased fees for sending money outside.
Yes.
So basically, that targets immigrants.
Sending money outside of the country.
Yes.
Yeah, that's definitely
because they know that it's typically immigrants that do that. So
yeah,
I think the state of Florida is also considering that, but for Florida, I think they were talking about those that are not documented when they're sending money, like to be paying higher fees.
Mm-hmm. But how would you even know?
I don't know.
Literally, somebody could just have gone on a trip outside the country and just needed some extra cash.
Yes. So I don't know how they enforce that. But if this bill makes it across the board, it doesn't matter whether an American is sending money abroad.
Right.
Then everybody gets affected.
Everybody gets impacted.
But the assumption, I think, is that it will hit the other guys more.
And they're willing to hurt some in order to get all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So they're willing to hurt
a
little bit few of their own.
Yeah.
In order to get the other guys.
There it is. You said it better.
Don't get it twisted, it's Exit Production. Baby wanga ninga kuneti zivane, sweetie wanga ninga kuneti kondane.
Baby wanga ninga kuneti zivane, sweetie wanga ninga kuneti zivane. Just one chance, na mutima wanga ninga kupase. Just one chance,
na moyo wanga ilongatende.
Just one chance, na mutima wanga.
And now for part 2 of our conversation about developing countries. When we left off, we were discussing some nuances regarding Central Africa.
Okay. Yeah. There's a lot of dimensions to why African countries. So I was trying to talk about how part of what contributed to get where we are. And part of it is when Western countries promote democracy. Democracy is, by definition, supposed to be a good thing. Mm-hmm. But sometimes it's also something they have mastered. And if you practice something they have mastered, they can use it to their advantage. Because you see, before they came, we had chiefdoms, okay?
Are chiefdoms like monarchies?
They are like monarchies. But the way our monarchies worked, our leaders, if you look at our traditional leaders in Zimbabwe, in Zambia, like I don't know if it's Moena Tapas and them and Chitimukulus. They made
Now
sure.
you're naming people.
Yeah, they made sure that their people were well. One of them, I think it was from one chief from Zimbabwe. They had a rule. It was very rare to find people stealing. So if they found somebody stealing a chicken, instead of throwing them in prison, they'll get that person and say, look, this is how we raise chickens. They'll show them how to raise chicken, and they'll actually give them chickens to start with.
They taught them how to fish.
Yeah. So we had no prisons, and everybody had what to eat. We had the basics.
You talk about Zambia and Zimbabwe kind of like they were one at one point, right?
Yeah, that area is. This is why I'm studying these people at the same time, because Zambia, Malawi, Zambia, even part of Congo, before the borders were made, they were one people. Because for Chewa people, for example, there are Chewa people in Zambia and Chewa people in Malawi. The paramount chief for the Chewa people in Malawi lives in Zambia. They are maintained that because they just put a border there and then split the tribe. But these people still say no, our chief is across the border. You see, just like there are Bembas in Congo and the Bembas in Zambia. Well, Bembas came from Congo anyway. So, and when they split the border between Zimbabwe and Zambia, both sides has relatives living across. So, I don't know if I went off in tangent there, but
No, that's good.
yeah, they're kind of the same people. And coming back to, so our systems work just fine. We just needed to develop them and develop at our own pace. And when people come say they want ivory from us or copper, trading fairly. What do you have? Oh, you have technology for this. Give us that and we'll give you this. We were going to be developed like everybody else. But what happens is you have a new system. I'm not saying democracy is bad. It's a good thing. But sometimes it's not used properly. So right now what they do is if a guy sounds stuff who is in leadership, like he wants them to pay taxes, he wants them to refine minerals within the country so that you get the better value from it. He wants them to process coffee within the country so that at least you get the benefit from the final products. When a guy starts talking like that, they'll support some other person from the opposition. They fund them, they help them win, and when that guy wins, then they're going to control them. He's not going to help them pay taxes. He's going to allow raw commodities to leave the country.
So that's also like something that we could tackle another day is how the different styles of rule actually impact societies based on the culture that they already have built. And because I think people have such a black and white view of the different styles of political styles of ruling that they don't quite understand the nuances that come with each one, particularly the culture that was already there to begin with. And it's a conversation, because it's not to say that one is worse than another. It's to say, how does it actually impact and serve the people or the nation? Was the nation better or worse after having particular systems brought in or taken away? I'm sure that there are some countries that benefited from democracy coming in, but the question is it a real benefit, or is it just something that we're seeing cursory, like like lipstick on a pig type of analysis, or and how would we know? How would we be able to tell? And does that go back? Let's circle back. Does that circle back to the whole word of what is considered developing in GDPs and all those different things? Like, because even like the Netherlands, I think you mentioned the Netherlands earlier, they have a king and a queen, right?
Yes.
They were once, are they have a monarchy, but they're considered democratic?
Yeah, they're a monarch, but they're not just an absolute monarch. They have kings and queens, but they will have like an elected like prime minister in the case of like Britain. So the people who who lead political affairs, who have to be elected to office, but there's technically that prime minister still reports to the king or queen, but they just don't run the political side of it.
Okay, so they have a system like the UK.
Yes, similar to the UK.
Now, here's the thing. Those systems that are like the UK, that's not a true democracy though, right? It's not considered a true democracy.
You would say that, but nobody's going to say that about Western countries. It was not going to be called true democracy if that was happening in Africa. So the West have propaganda to make things, look good. We don't. We don't have big media houses like that. We, whenever there is a monarch, we have a monarch in Eswatini. It's portrayed terribly and all that. Maybe they don't do good things. I don't know. But would they be portrayed better if they had a similar system to the UK? Maybe, maybe not. Because part of it is, because a system like that where it's ruled by a king or queen means sometimes those are discouraged, not because you don't want people to live in a dictatorship. Sometimes they're discouraged because it's not easy to control them. You don't have another guy to sponsor in an election to beat the other guy so that you can control them.
So basically, oligarchs can't come in and be like, let me give you a bunch of money in order to shift the rules and change policy and do these things.
Yeah.
But in a true democracy, but I'm using the word true, oligarchs shouldn't be able to come in and shift the
dictate
system.
What happens.
Exactly. So
No, they
even
shouldn't.
in the U.S., we're not living in a true democracy.
No.
Because too many outside influences are able to come in and shift the policies.
Yeah, even at the local level. Yeah, so that's what the problem is. And I learned, when I was doing some research for my MBA, I found that actually some African dictatorships had a better investment, the stability index was better than democracies. Because you have Robert Mugabe running one country for a long time and with very little possibility that things will change. Investors know exactly what to expect and they know that it's not going to change very soon. So they can plan better because they know what to expect in the next 10, 15 years. While in a democracy, that keeps changing every 5 years. So that stability index for investment becomes lower. Which is surprising, when I was leading that. But in a way, you can see how it makes sense. It's easier to make business decisions because you know what to expect in the next 10 years.
So what makes this last question before we wrap it up for this conversation? What makes the U.S. so appealing to immigrants then? What is it about the process, the standard here?
Well,
or any Western country for that matter? What makes it so appealing?
Well, it's the U.S. is it's a developed country, one, and the U.S. has a lot of influence through subtle ways, like the movie industry. Everybody sees American movies and what's portrayed in movies. Success, this, that, and that's what people see. And a lot of people for a long time didn't know that there was discrimination against black people here because they show us TV shows with black police chief, black CEO in movies and all that. So people were thinking, wow, things look fine. It was difficult to think that kind of those kind of vices exist. The U.S. knows how to inculcate its culture on other people, and this is what maybe the current administration does not understand, that when you spend $20 million to promote Sesame Street in Iraq, you're trying to inculcate your culture and the ways of doing things, the way you look good towards the world.
What they call soft power.
Yeah. When you have US aid doing stuff, you're going to associate the United States as this good guy who cares about us. If they come to you saying, well, we're setting up a mine, but, we can't pay taxes for the next 10 years. This is a nice guy who's been setting up clinics through US aid, blah, 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 blah. It's difficult to say no to them, and it's difficult to not to think these guys can help us develop, because all those little activities, portray the United States as this giant, friendly, prosperous. So,
it's the country of
so
Big Bird.
people would like to come here,
Mm-hmm.
the American dream and all that. So so they want to come here and they want to associate with them, and people will tell you that no, I'd rather do with Americans than the Chinese. If you ask them why, they won't give you a very valid reason. They have better propaganda of making themselves look better than the other guys.
But unfortunately, they've removed all those. Or fortunately, I don't know what the next step is for this administration. It's like when you take away all of your the things that people are proud of, the parts that make you proud, then what is there?
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
So, but on the other hand, some of those moves, because I don't know, our current president probably doesn't understand those dimensions of soft power and all that.
Mm-hmm.
He just looks at it at the 0 and 1 factor, immediate profit and loss instead of long-term winning mission.
Right.
Some of that it will turn out to be good for African countries.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because when you cut aid like that, they have to figure something out on themselves. Like
right, self-empowerment.
Like South Africa was cut off, so to speak. There were still Western companies investing there, but politically they looked like cut off. Mm-hmm. And they learned how to be self-reliant, manufacturing and all that, So even when you go back to what we were saying with GDP, Nigeria has a higher GDP South Africa, but South Africa is a way more developed country than Nigeria.
In terms of infrastructure?
Infrastructure, technology, manufacturing. Tourism, fine goods, turning raw materials into fine goods. Mm-hmm. They're way more developed. Yeah, so... so they kind of, because they were isolated, so even African countries, when aid is cut, they need to figure that themselves. It's actually good for them that they find their own solutions, and so it helps them to see the guy manipulating them exactly who they are. So some of those things are good for them, Are there going to be very bad casualties because this program are cut abruptly without warning? Yes, they're going to be. And it's bad.
It's like ripping off a Band-Aid.
Yeah, it's bad. But in the long run...
Short term, but in the long run, if they do not try to lean on another country and really do try to innovate, they'll be better.
They'll do better. Yeah.
And that's where we're in.
Okay.
Thank you for joining me today.
All right. Thank you very much.
And thank you for joining us today and listening to this conversation. Join me and Charles next week when we talk about colorism. Please like, subscribe, share, and we will see you next Monday.